For the past 12 weeks, we've highlighted the men's and women's NSCAA Game of the Week. We've seen fantastic finishes, big saves, and the best collegiate matchups. The season finale was in Princeton, New Jersey for an Ivy League clash between the Princeton Tigers and the Yale Bulldogs. The final NSCAA review show is coming up next.
Hi everybody, Steve Bell and Keith Tabatsnik in Princeton, New Jersey for our final NSCAA review show, and what a great matchup we've got for you. Princeton and Yale. Keith, it's the 99th meeting between these two Ivy League schools. Should be a great matchup.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be, because there's a lot on the line, in particular for Princeton, in the sense that, you know, they have a 14 RPI. They're looking to try to get in the NCAA tournament. A win tonight, they're definitely in. I personally think they're going to be in either way, but that certainly seals it. But it's also implication of the league as well. There's some big games this weekend. There's Dartmouth at Brown, and there's Penn at Harvard. And if Princeton wins tonight, depending on those results, there could actually be a four-way tie in the Ivy League.
Very important game in the Ivy League, and really this is symbolic of what's going on all across the country. You've got surprises in conferences, you've got the teams that have punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament, and then you got a lot of those bubble teams that need a good showing in these conference matchups.
Yeah, well, they certainly do, because, you know, the tournament is right around the corner. There's a number of teams that, hey, they're definitely going to be in. There's other teams that have been looking at this RPI thing and thinking, like, how does that put us there? But I think it's going to be really tough to get off the bubble this year. Those teams are on the bubble. You know, some of the big conferences we talk about, the ACC, they're going to have 7 teams in without any question. The Big East, they could have 5 teams in. All right, the Big Ten could have 6 teams in, taking a lot of those at-large spots. And then, of course, you have the conferences where I think there's only going to be, you know, one person in there from that conference unless the top team loses. And then they start taking some of those bubble spots. It's going to be a very difficult year. There's certainly going to be some teams deserving of being in the tournament who get disappointed.
We brought it up a couple times now. It's the 3 letters we hear quite a bit during this time of year. RPI. What does it stand for? What does it mean? And who's worried about it right now?
Well, what it stands for, you can get at some different answers depending on what coaches you're asking, depending on where they are in the RPI, but it actually stands for Rating Percentage Index, right? And really what that means is, what is your strength of schedule? And they reward, the NCAA rewards you for having a tough schedule. And your win-loss record, your head-to-head competition is big, you know, and things like that going. They're the primary factors, and RPI is the biggest one of those primary factors. Secondary factors that go into the selections, though, also come down to, like, your final part of the season. Your last 8 games are very big because, of course, they want teams that are on a hot streak, especially if you're on the bubble. Head-to-head competition with other teams that are also on the bubble becomes very big as well.
Been great stories all year long, individual stories, coaches, programs that have turned things around. If you had to narrow it down in the top 3, what are the 3 biggest stories of the 2009 season?
Well, to me, that's easy. Number 1 is Akron. All right, Akron goes undefeated for the entire regular season. I think Akron could make a big run. Boy, if they could go the whole way, what a story that is for Caleb Porter. Congratulations to them. But also on the women's side, Stanford makes a run on the women's side, and they go undefeated. And I'm not sure how often that's ever happened. You have the men's and the women's side. And by the way, at the beginning of the season, you might have been talking about some different teams. You know, on the women's side, you're going to say it's North Carolina has a chance to go, you know, run the show, and it might have been somebody else, Wake Forest or somebody like that on the men's side. But congratulations to Akron and to Stanford. That's story number 1. Story number 2, it's the crowd, Steve. I tell you, the crowds have been great. We had on Fox Soccer Channel over 10,000 at UC Santa Barbara this year when they played Indiana. All right, Maryland are hosting North Carolina, and they have 7,000. Akron one time was sold out the day before their game. And that's just something that, you know, we haven't seen before in college soccer, but I think this year is going to be the start of seeing that quite a bit. And then number 3, well, it's the word we used right from the beginning. It's parity. It's an overused word. I've used it a lot this year, but never before, I think, so true. There are going to be a lot of teams deserving to get into the NCAA tournament. They're not going to get in. Every conference game is tough. And by the way, in all of Division I soccer, there's no more easy games, all right? Every game is a tough game.